I met Alina 4 years ago at a small coffee shop where I was working weekends to save up for my first apartment. It was early October and the rain outside painted the windows in streaks that blurred the streetlights into golden smears. She came in wearing a bright yellow coat that looked almost too cheerful for the weather. She ordered a caramel latte with extra foam and a blueberry muffin and sat by the window scrolling on her phone. When I brought over her order, she looked up with this warm smile that made me forget my own name for a second. She started asking about my shift schedule and joked that I must be the face of the place because she had never seen me before. Over the next few weeks she became a regular, always the same drink and muffin, always asking how my day was going before she even picked up her cup. I didn't realize it then, but she had this talent for making you feel like you were the only person she saw in the room. One evening near closing she asked if I wanted to join her for dinner. Since she hated eating alone, that dinner turned into hours of conversation about music, travel, and how neither of us liked the idea of settling for an average life. Within a month we were texting daily and meeting up every chance we got. The first year of our relationship was the kind people post highlight reels about on social media. She surprised me with tickets to my favorite band. She posted photos of us with captions like "my forever" and "the one who makes my heart smile." She remembered small things like my favorite snack and would drop it off at my door after a long shift. I thought I had found someone who was genuinely loyal and proud to be with me. Looking back now I see the cracks that were there all along. Alina had a lot of male friends, which I told myself was fine because I didn't want to be the jealous boyfriend stereotype. She was always on her phone and said it was for work or to keep in touch with her family group chat. Sometimes messages came in late at night and she would tilt the screen away saying it was just her cousin sending memes. 2 months before everything unraveled I started noticing more. Her Instagram posts shifted from couple photos to solo shots of her at brunches or events I was also at but never pictured in. She stopped tagging me entirely, and when I asked she said she wanted to keep our relationship private for her followers because it was better for engagement. I tried to believe her, but it didn't sit right. One evening I showed up at her apartment early to surprise her with dinner. Her laptop was open on the kitchen counter and I saw a spreadsheet titled Collab Schedule 1. Didn't mean to snoop, but my eyes caught a few lines before I could look away. Dinner with M, keep casual weekend getaway with R. Content shoot. My name wasn't anywhere on the page. I felt something cold settle in my chest, but I didn't confront her then. Instead I decided to pay attention to the patterns she would crop me out of pictures before posting them. She would show the restaurant we were in but only her plate and her drink, not me sitting across from her. One night she left her phone on the coffee table while taking a shower and it lit up with a message from someone saved as Mark Jim that read, "Last night was perfect, can't wait for the next one." That was the moment I knew I needed proof. Before I made my move I created a fake Instagram profile named Alex using pictures from my friend's cousin with his permission. Within hours of following her she followed back and liked 10 of Alex's photos. By the next morning she sent him a DM saying, "Hey, you seem familiar, maybe we've met at an event." Over the next 2 weeks she flirted with Alex in ways she hadn't with me in over a year. She sent selfies that I had never seen before and never posted publicly. She told him she was single and focusing on her freedom and travel. When Alex suggested meeting she agreed instantly. The place she picked was the exact same restaurant where I had made a reservation for our anniversary the following week. Her plan was to meet Alex at 6:30 for drinks and then meet me at 7 o'clock for our special dinner. As if nothing was wrong I decided I wanted to see it with my own eyes. At 6:20 I sat at the bar facing the entrance trying to keep my expression neutral. She walked in wearing the blue dress I had bought her for her birthday last year. She ordered a cocktail she usually only got on first dates and checked her phone every few minutes. At 6:35 I stood up and walked over to her table. She looked up with confusion that quickly shifted to panic. I told her calmly that I was Alex. I took out my phone, opened the fake profile and scrolled through every message she had sent. Her mouth opened but no words came out for a few seconds. Then the excuses started. She said it was networking for her brand. She said she was just testing me to see if I was paying attention. She even laughed awkwardly like maybe this could be a funny story. One day I told her I wasn't staying for dinner and left. That night my phone lit up with messages and calls. By midnight there were over 20 missed calls and more than 30 texts ranging from apologies to accusations. The next day I went to her apartment to get my things. Her roommate pulled me aside and told me she had done the same thing to her last boyfriend, even down to the fake networking excuse. That was when I realized her loyalty was just part of the image she built for her followers, and I was finally done being part of her performance. The week after I walked away from Alina felt unreal. I had spent years thinking about her every day and now she was gone, but her shadow still lingered in my mind. At first I expected constant calls and messages, but instead it was quieter than I thought it would be, quiet enough that I knew it wouldn't last. 2 days later I woke up to my phone buzzing with Notifications. Alina had posted a string of Instagram stories filled with vague captions about betrayal, heartbreak, and starting over. Her followers flooded the comments with sympathy and encouragement, unaware that the person they were supporting had been living a double life. I didn't respond. I didn't post my own side of the story. I had learned long ago that the internet doesn't care about proof when the better storyteller has the louder voice. Still, I kept screenshots of everything just in case. On Wednesday, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize asking if I wanted to clear the air. I ignored it, but minutes later a message from my sister popped up saying Alina had called her and claimed she was worried about me. That was her favorite trick, making herself look like the concerned ex while planting seeds of doubt in the minds of the people close to me. I called my sister and explained the truth, and she believed me, but I hated that I had to drag her into it at all. By Friday, I decided to block Alina's number completely. That night, while having dinner with my friend Michael, I saw her walk into the same restaurant with a man I didn't recognize. She made a point of sitting where she could see me and laughing loudly every few minutes. It was so obvious, it was almost pathetic. When that didn't get a reaction, she walked past my table on the way to the restroom and said under her breath, "We could still fix this if you'd stop overreacting." I didn't even look at her. I just kept talking to Michael. The next morning there was a handwritten letter taped to my apartment door. I didn't read it. I just photographed it for my records and tossed it in the trash. Over the next week I started hearing from mutual friends that she was telling people I had trust issues and that our breakup was mutual. Some people believed her, some didn't, but I refused to defend myself to every single person. My focus was on cutting off any path she might use to get to me. I unfollowed or muted mutuals who seemed loyal to her version of events. I set my social media to private and reviewed every post I'd made in the last few years, deleting anything that included her or details about my personal life. One night I got a call from her old roommate, the same one who had warned me before. She told me Alina had already moved on to someone else and was posting him all over her feed like I'd never existed. I felt an odd mix of relief and disgust. Relief because maybe she would leave me alone now, and disgust because I knew that guy was just the next name in her spreadsheet of collaborations. But I didn't warn him. I knew he wouldn't listen even if I tried. A month after the breakup, the real peace started to settle in. The late night phone buzzing stopped. The awkward run-in stopped. I rearranged my apartment, replaced the bedding she had picked out with colors I actually liked, and donated the gifts she'd given me. I started going to the gym again, not to post about it, but because it felt good to have a routine that was mine alone. I reconnected with old friends I hadn't seen in years because she never liked them. I realized how much of my life I had let her brand and filter until it barely felt like my own. One evening I took myself out to dinner at a small Italian place across town. It wasn't fancy, but the pasta was fresh and the staff knew your name. After 2 visits sitting there, I realized it was the first time in years I'd gone to dinner without thinking about how it would look in a photo or what caption it would have. I didn't check my phone once during the meal, and when I walked out into the cool night air I felt lighter than I had in a long time. Alina still posted her version of events from time to time. Sometimes mutual friends would send me screenshots without me asking, and I would delete them immediately. I didn't need to know what performance she was putting on for her followers, because the truth was simple and it was mine to keep. She wasn't the loyal partner she pretended to be, and I was finally free from the show. 2 months after the breakup, something shifted inside me. It wasn't sudden like flipping a switch, but more like waking up one morning and realizing the heaviness I'd been carrying was gone. The silence that once felt strange now felt like peace. I no longer jumped at every phone buzz thinking it might be her. My morning started with coffee and music. Instead of scrolling through my phone to see what narrative she was pushing online, I kept my no contact rule strict, and in return she seemed to finally move on to her next storyline. Her presence in my life had gone from constant noise to a faint echo I barely noticed. With that space I started rebuilding myself in ways I hadn't realized I needed. I signed up for a weekend photography class and found myself enjoying it so much I stayed after to talk with other students. I took road trips alone, something she always said was boring without a social media audience to document it. I learned how to enjoy my own company again. There were still reminders of her, sometimes a song playing in a store we used to listen to together or a location tag popping up on my feed, but those moments didn't sting anymore. They just reminded me how far I'd come. One afternoon I met up with Michael for lunch and he pointed out something that stuck with me. He said I looked more like myself than I had in years, not the version that was always polished for photos, but the one who laughed easily and didn't measure every word for how it might be interpreted later. I realized he was right. Being with Alina had turned me into a performer without me even noticing. Now I was living without an audience, and it felt better than I could have imagined. Around this time I got a message from someone I didn't know. It was a guy who had been dating Alina after me. He said he'd heard things about how our relationship ended and wanted to know if they were true. I thought about warning him, but I knew from experience he probably wouldn't believe me until he lived it himself, so I just told him to trust his instincts and left it at that. Weeks passed without any drama, and I started to think maybe the chapter was truly closed. Then one evening while walking home from work I saw her across the street. She was laughing with someone and didn't notice me. Instead of the rush of emotions I expected, I felt nothing but a quiet sense of finality. It was like seeing a character from a movie I used to watch on repeat but had long since outgrown. I walked on without slowing my pace and didn't look back. That night I realized I hadn't thought about her in weeks. Before that moment she had finally become part of my past instead of my present. From then on I focused entirely on the life I was building. I deepened my friendships, strengthened my family connections, and pursued the hobbies that made me feel alive. I stopped comparing myself to the highlight reels of other people's lives online because I knew better than most how fake those highlight reels could be. The biggest lesson I took from everything was this: loyalty is shown in actions, not captions. Love is honest, or it isn't love at all, and peace is worth more than any performance. Someone tries to sell you. I kept my documentation of everything locked away just in case, but I hoped I'd never need it. The true victory wasn't proving her wrong, it was proving to myself that I could walk away and never look back. Months later I booked a solo trip to the coast. No itinerary, no content plan, just me, a camera, and the sound of the ocean. On the last night of that trip I sat on the beach watching the sunset and realized I had everything I needed right then: freedom, clarity, and the knowledge that I'd never again settle for someone who saw me as a prop in their story. I wasn't the same man who once thought being chosen by her was a prize. Now I knew the real prize was choosing myself.